Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high, cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold up, we just saying hi. Five somebody, rise up. Weekdays, catch us live, somebody. Let's go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening and good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Pascal Show. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. Hope your day is doing well, going well. Hope your day is, hopefully the show is finding you in good spirits, as I like to say, as of late. Okay, because there's been a lot of crazy stuff going on. Man, so much going on over the past couple days, over the past 24 hours surrounding this particular case that we've been talking about. And I got somebody very special coming on to give us her expertise on all of this, okay? And you see the title up above or down below, wherever you're watching this show right here, okay? Was she really taken? Was she really, or was she having a mental health crisis? Or is this just a full-blown hoax? There's a lot of questions here, a lot of gaps in this story. There's a lot of rumors that are flying around out here in these social media, internet streets. It's been absolutely crazy, guys. I don't even know what is true and what is not out here, okay? So I wanted to bring on somebody very special. So before we get everything going, do me a favor, some housekeeping really quick. Hit that like button down below, crush it, send it past 300 likes as you guys start to file in, okay? Because I know you guys are all very interested in hearing an expert in this, so please hit that like button. It helps with the algorithm. And of course, do not forget to crush that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell, set it to all so that you know whenever I go live, whenever I upload, so on and so forth, because it can be random, okay, as of late, because of all the breaking news and all the stories that have been popping off lately, okay? So make sure you hit that subscribe button, all right? Hit that join button if you want to support the channel, become a member, or follow me, or support the channel even more on Patreon, patreon.com/the Pascal Show. Okay. Well, we got to get into some things, guys. We got some things to talk about. And our friend, okay, is can only be here for a period of time. So we got to bring on our friend. She's been on the show a million times before. Okay. And if you don't know who this woman is, she is amazing. She's very informative. She has been on here to talk about many other cases. Most of it has been about the Idaho 4 and Brian Kohberger, but she is coming on to talk to us about this. Please welcome former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer to the show. Hello, Jennifer. How you doing?
How are you doing? It's so good to be here. Thanks for asking me on. Of
course. I appreciate you being here. It really does mean a lot that you're here to talk about this situation. Now, I know that the internet has been losing its mind over this Carlee Russell situation. Like, we already know that she was missing around July 13th. She pulled over on the side of the interstate. She claims she saw a toddler, to be more exact, a toddler around 3 to 4 years old wearing a diaper on the side of the road. She pulls over to help this child out. Of course, the world went crazy, as we already know, guys, trying to figure this out. This is the reason why we're all here, right? We're all scratching our heads because of how everything transpired. We saw the video of the traffic cam, which still sparked even more questions because it doesn't seem like there was an abduction that took place during that time, which is, again, adds more gaps, adds more questions to everything. Then suddenly she shows up on her parents' front doorstep, knocking on the door, safe. And out of what she says, her abductor's clutches. So there's a lot to digest. There's a lot to break down. Obviously, we have had a lot of stuff go down over the past 48 hours. So, Jennifer, I got to ask you, especially with all the stuff that we've been seeing, as far as with law enforcement and they're doing their due diligence, what should we be expecting right now as far as their investigation in proving either that she really was taken or not?
Well, right now, investigators have their hands full. First of all, anytime it's a high-profile case, it's a whole different ballgame in terms of the speed at which you want to accomplish everything, in terms of the fact that a microscope is going to be on you while you're investigating and after the investigation, looking at, did you do everything right and expeditiously? So they have their hands full. The number one thing they have got to look at closely is that tape. And I know it, probably a lot like your people in your audience and yourself. I've watched that tape probably over a dozen times. I've seen the enhanced versions of that tape. This morning, I saw something I'd never seen before at 9:04. I saw someone in the lane putting on their turn signal to go to the shoulder. We know this happened around 9:30, but I thought that was interesting. Also, there is a possible time lapse that could have just been a glitch. I'm trying to ferret out the exact amount of time and the minutes involved. It was something I was working on this morning, and then I had an obligation, and then I went back and jumped back into it. So I'm finding all of that very interesting. Certainly in what I've seen, there's such peculiar action, right? It appears Carlee gets out of the car. It appears she goes into the passenger side. It appears that there are, a lot of movement around that car. And then it appeared that a shadowy figure that it would seem as her walks toward that forest area. Now recall that forest area is flanked on the by the highway on one side, and the other side is a beautiful residential neighborhood. So it's not like she would have just disappeared into the forest. I mean, on the other side was a nice neighborhood. So I would believe law enforcement is looking at all of that footage, all the camera work. Also, they need to be looking at the footage well after the 9:30 time mark to see if anybody did come by at a later time frame. They've got their hands full, Pascal, and I just talked only about the video.
Yeah, so just the traffic cam, which I'll pull it up here again one more time so we can all see it again. But as you can see right here, yeah, I mean, there was a glitch apparently, and I know some people are saying that there was a big glitch that happened in this video, but it seems odd that during that big glitch, that say the taking would happen at that significant time. It seems a bit odd that that it would be so choreographed in such a way, right? Unless there really was not just a glitch, but man-made glitch in the traffic video. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on that are this. I don't know the origination of that traffic cam video. We know it's a traffic cam. I mean, we know exactly even which traffic cam. You can see it. We've seen pictures of it. But how was that disseminated to the public? And was there any portions that were removed prior to dissemination? If so, why wouldn't they have removed the part of the time frame that's really most significant?
Crucial, right.
Which we can see. But was there something prior to that? I want to know where the origination of that traffic cam came from. Where did it come from?
Right.
Do you know? I don't know.
No, and that's the part that I'd like to have figured out as well, because it just doesn't make sense. And it seems very fishy, right? That would suddenly, that part, maybe that could potentially be a crucial piece. That chunk is gone, right? And it takes seconds. We've seen this in other cases. There was the Eliza, I'm forgetting her name. The girl that was jogging. Eliza Fletcher. She was jogging in down the street, putting her miles in, training for the Boston Marathon, and this monster just jumps out, grabs her, and throws her in the back of the car and drives off. And that took seconds, right?
Second.
So it could be that situation where if there is a chunk of a minute or plus or more that is missing here, somebody, I mean, that could literally say or show that somebody may have pulled up, taken her with a little bit of struggle, thrown her in the car, and drove off. But that's terrible that glitch is there. So it is a bit strange. Now, I know that 5-0, okay, police are going to be doing everything they can. They're going to be doing their due diligence, covering everything. But one thing that does kind of bother me, that's just kind of still itching at me, okay? It's a scratch it's an itch I can't scratch, right?
Mm-hmm.
The baby. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Let's talk about the baby really quick, okay? Not the baby, guys. All right. Now, she pulls up. She sees this toddler on the side of the road. She calls 911. She calls her friends. Then the taking moment happens, right? Now, one thing that I still can't wrap around my head, or at least the question that keeps looming over my head or in my head is, where is this said toddler? Right? Has there been any reports of a missing child? So on and so forth. And of course, according to police reports, and in their statement, they said the only time that there's ever been mentioned about a toddler on the side of the road is from her and no one else. So I keep wondering, where's this baby at? What's up with that? What are your thoughts?
No, I agree. And that's the part of the story that really, I think, makes everyone believe this is contrived, because nobody else saw the baby. And we're talking about a 3 or 4-year-old per the description given, in diapers, I believe, per the description given. And the police have been very staunch that, listen, we don't have any missing toddler. And I think another very important point here, to segue just a teeny bit, we don't have anything from police, asking for the public's help in finding the abductor. We don't have anything from the police saying, be on the lookout. We have a potential kidnapper. I find that very odd in terms of law enforcement protocol. You don't want to frighten the public, but you really, in a case like this, want to seek the public's help. So we have 3 pieces to that, right? That aren't lining up. But Pascal, this is the piece that bothers me, and why I think we have to at least consider that this was some sort of mental break. The relative says that they heard her speaking to the toddler, but no response back. Right. Now, that's a little eerie to me. Now, again, if you look at the Sherry Papini case, I mean, she hurt herself. I mean, she really did everything to make her hoax believable. So could this just be, I said this to string along, to make it look real? It's possible. But that bothered me, that piece.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. Unless, I mean, of course, we got to exercise every possibility, right? She either was really taken, there was a mental health crisis, or it was a hoax. So let's talk about the hoax side. When it comes to this baby, the family friend or the family relative, okay, or like it was somebody's, it was like a relative's girlfriend, if I'm correct, was on the phone with her. Who's to say that she wasn't in on this ruse? Who's to say that she wasn't in on this con, right? On this lie. So I feel like we have to, think about that possibility. Unfortunately, and I hate to do that, you know what I mean? But Sherry Papini, for example, perfect example of a situation of someone. And just so you guys know, Sherry Papini was a woman that I guess wanted to get out of this relationship that she was in. And she went to great lengths because she was having, if I'm correct, cobwebs in the back of my mind. Like she was having this affair with somebody else, but she wanted to get out of the relationship that she was currently in with her husband. So she put up a huge act on and staging this abduction of hers. She hurt herself, etc. She even had the boyfriend hurt her as well, just to sell this abduction, right? Only to find out, of course, that it was all one big fat lie. So when I look at something like this, and of course that everybody on the internet's losing their minds right now over it, and a lot of people are leaning on the side of this is a full-on lie. The toddler part is the part that I'm going, okay, I wish we could have at least the 911 calls, the 911 call that she made released, so we can kind of get an idea of maybe there is a baby that is talking, that's making noise in the background while she's communicating with this toddler, trying to render aid. The 911 call at least would give us a little bit more transparency of what actually went down here in this particular moment. So yeah, it is interesting that we don't have any information about a description of the baby. And then you just said as well, the abductor, right? Now, I do want to ask you this too, because I think this is incredibly important, I think. Now, there is an interview, okay, that the parents had. And guys, go check it out. I just did a video about it, okay? I just reacted to it. But in this video, the mother or the parents are both sitting there in solidarity, basically tripling down on the claims that there is a monster out there in these streets. Now, when it comes to the police and their investigation, wouldn't they have put out a description, a full-on description of the abductor, regardless if, let's just say, Carlee wanted to keep it private? Wouldn't they put out that information? Because that would still be a threat to society, right? A threat to the community, right?
That's my biggest issue with this case. When I say my biggest issue, that is my biggest red flag. And there's a lot of red flags on the hoax side, but I still think we cannot discount the possibility of a mental break. And we can't totally discount the possibility of an abduction, but the red flags are flying on the fact that it was a hoax, because we haven't heard anything from law enforcement about the description of the abductor. And that is something that if they were 100% convinced there was an abductor, I would expect to see that. I would expect to see possibly a sketch, certainly police asking for help, certainly coming out as a public service announcement saying, listen, if you are anywhere around this area, lock your doors, don't pull over. This is a ruse we think could be used. And we're not hearing anything. And that, for me, gives me a lot of pause in this situation, certainly.
Okay. And that still leans on the side of possible mental health issue, or this is a full fabrication of a lie, right? Which is interesting. So the fact that they haven't put that information out yet, okay? They said that they've gotten statements from Carlee. Of course, she's been evaluated, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. But what kind of pieces are they, what kind of things are they putting together? What pieces are they putting together as far as this investigation to get a clearer idea of what happened to Carlee?
Well, whenever you're looking at something like this, and for all the people that are just so convinced this was a hoax, what is there to gain? When you normally see a hoax situation, you look at what the end game is. Is the end game freedom from a relationship? Is the end game attention, or is the end game money, or some sort of combination? Typically in hoaxes, and all the ones I've seen, been involved with, the big dollar sign is typically the reason. And that gives me pause here, because I don't see the dollar sign. I've been looking for the GoFundMe. Maybe there's one up now. I haven't looked since yesterday. But I'm not seeing the money side of this whole thing. So that makes me wonder, but is it a personal situation, getting out of a relationship, upset with the boyfriend, trying to make a statement, trying to get attention? The whole thing doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of the timing. She gets off work, goes, gets something to eat, and then, pulls over on the side of the road. By the way, another clue that for me, I find interesting from the law enforcement perspective.
Yeah.
Why did she pull over at mile marker 11? I think it was 11, but it's a
11,
particular mile marker.
I think it was 11.4. Yeah.
11.4, but it was right
Yeah.
at that mile marker. If you hear her description, or what they're saying is the description, it was really much further down the highway that she says she saw the toddler. I understand that when you're driving 65, 75 miles an hour, it takes you a while to turn over and get stopped. So
Right.
if you see something in the distance, I mean, a lot of people are making a lot about that. Oh, well, if she saw the toddler, she would have swerved off. Well, sometimes you see the toddler, I mean, if there was a toddler, way in advance, right? So you're looking up there, your headlights are shining on them, and you pull over and you roll for a while with the hazards on like she did. So I don't make a big deal about that, but I do find it interesting. She was at a particular mile marker. In other words, was that so somebody could pick her up or somebody know where she went off the road? I don't know.
Good point. But
And then, anyway.
Yeah, no, the only pushback I would have is that it looked like this. So it was pitch black. So if she was to see this toddler yards away, right? However far away that she saw this toddler, how would she be able to see this kid in pitch black? It's not like there's street lights or like, that's one gripe I have about interstates, guys. It drives me nuts. They need more lights on those roads, especially in certain areas. It's just pitch black and you're just driving on a whim and a prayer, right? But in this particular situation, you have no lights except for other cars' headlights, and that's it. So in a way, it's like, how did she see this kid in the pitch black like that? There also is a story that they said that she double backed. She double back. Okay, like she, banged a Yui. She took the nearest exit. Like she saw the kid in passing, and that she took the exit and banged a Yui, and then came down and was able to slow down because of what she saw at that time. But it's still interesting that she was even able to see a kid on the side of the road, unless the kid was literally at where the grass meets the pavement, the grass meets the highway. So that's the only gripe that I have about this. It just seems a bit far-fetched. It seems a bit odd. And
then add to that, no one else saw the toddler. Let's add to that. No one else saw the toddler. Remember, the reason that they're thinking she could have doubled back is because they know the time frame. They know how far it is from Tiki's or Tzitzi's where she got the food, and then the exit that she had to take, and then where she pulled over. So it makes sense if she does that loop, the timing ends up being right. And again, this could speak to a mental health crisis. I'm just saying it could, if in her mind. And I just want to say this.
Sure.
I don't know if you know about the Elkins case, but it's a case I've covered and we've covered. And it's this young man who had his whole life ahead of him. He was a world-class athlete, amazing athlete. And he unfortunately had a break and is still missing, although there's been sightings because he's afraid people are after to kill him. I personally know so well a friend of mine that I've known since I was about 16 years old that is a very educated, that's a doctor, so on and so forth. And they had a break, ended up going to Australia thinking the Chinese government was trying to kill them. It's a true Beautiful Mind scenario. The Beautiful Mind, by the way, is a true story. And these stories happen. And I know another person, the same thing. Unfortunately, that person is not medicated, so literally is kind of locked up right now. But these things happen. I mean, I'm not saying that that is what happened here. I'm just saying that for the public to think that this doesn't exist because they've never had firsthand experience, I am here to tell you it can happen. It can happen on a dime if they don't have medication. They just use a different part of their brain where reality for them is what they imagine.
That is very true, and I know some other people were saying in the comments. I do want to address this too, because some people are asking, did she have any history of mental health? And the thing is that sometimes you don't even know you have mental health issues until you know you have mental health issues.
That's
You feel
exactly
me?
right.
Like sometimes you don't know what's going on with you until you actually have something going on with you. And I think that could possibly be what's happening here, or what happened here. Again, I've been leaning on the side of this may have been a mental break, just because of the things that have been out here. I feel like if there was some sort of monster out here in these streets, a toddler that was on the side of the road, I feel like there would have been I just feel like there would have been a description of said child out. There would have been a description of the person who took her. And that has been pretty wild. And I feel like that would be crucial with that piece of information. But one thing I have to say is, online right now, there have been a lot of things that have been shared through social media, a lot of screenshots of like texts. And the thing is who's writing these texts? To me, it's interesting that, and I get it when a story, like a case, becomes really hot, when everybody and their mama's on it, wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to put in their 2 cents. There are people out here that will fabricate things, let's be real,
So
surprise,
many
surprise.
people.
So many. And in this particular situation, there's been so many. And the thing is, I don't know if those things are real or not, because I don't see the news talking about it. I don't see the cops putting out information, right? Nor would they put out that information. Right now, I feel like they would show up and do a press conference and go, we found Carlee. There's still a monster on the loose. There was no press conference after she was found, So it's so odd. It's so interesting, this whole thing, and how everything is being, how all this is breaking down. Now, really quick, I do want to show this to you, and I'm not going to play it. I may play this after we're done talking here. But this interview, I know that you just put out a tweet saying that you were moved by this interview. Do you care to expand a little bit? Because I know a lot of people out here, even in the chat, some people are saying like the parents are just trying to cover her tracks in a way, trying to hold it down for her. They're willing to die on the hill and say that she was taken. And the mother does say, absolutely, the abductor is still out there. But you said this interview really moved you. Why? Why did it move you?
I don't think they're in on the hoax, and I could be proven wrong. I think that they are, they're supporting their daughter full throttle. And are they capable of just bold-faced lying on the Today Show? Maybe. But what I saw there, usually when people, I'm just going through a little bit of body language stuff. A lot of people made it out that she said, yes, there's an abductor, but she did kind of bobbles her head back and forth. If you watch from the very beginning, she's a head bobbler. Like this is just her style of speech, where she kind of moves her head a little bit back and forth. I didn't find that to be one of these, where you say, yes, Pascal, because I've seen that. It's amazing. Like it's a true head shake. So I didn't really find much about that. What I look for is when it comes to the emotional piece. And a lot of people, when they fake emote, it's, and
crocodile tears.
Impossible for them to produce the tears. If you look at her, it appears that she's really trying to hold back the emotion, and that in fact her eyes are swelling with tears, and she's trying to bring it in, and then her husband kind of hears it in her voice, and he reaches back for her. So it just moved me, because what if they believe everything Carlee said, only it's what Carlee imagined. What if they believe everything Carlee said and it's a big hoax? I was just moved that I think these parents have genuine emotion. I also want to say this really quick,
Sure.
Pascal. I find it so interesting because, of course, you know, my whole Twitter feed is about advocating for victims, advocating for the missing, right?
Right.
And so when I posted Carlee, I mean, it was just an influx. Everybody, oh, I'm praying for Carlee. I pray she's found. I pray everything's okay. And then I had to just kind of, I don't know, just kind of do a oxymoron moment when she was found, and everybody's like, that woman is a liar. She's not telling the truth. It's a big hoax. Put her in jail. She's just, all the hate, like it turned from this true concern to like true hate. And listen, if we get to the Sherry Papini, if it comes out like that and all these resources were wasted, hey, I'm right there with you. We need to make another grandiose example of that. If this is a mental health crisis, shame. If this is an abduction, really big shame.
Right.
Because so many people, want to err on the other side, sadly, because of the Sherry Papinis. I just want to throw that out there. To me, yes, it's leaning as to, I don't think it happened how it supposedly went down, but I'm certainly not at the point that I'm ready to throw her in jail. That's for sure. Not yet.
But I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that was another question I was going to ask you as well. And of course, I wish I had a lawyer on here to talk about this too. But another burning question I have is, okay, let's just say she is lying. Let's play that idea out. What kind of charges could she be facing if they find out that all of this has been one big fabrication?
Well, certainly there's filing of false police report. Those are typically misdemeanors, though. It could be lying to authorities, which depending on the state can rise to a felony level. It just depends. It could be fraud. There could be fraud charges. But again, right now, we're not seeing the money. Show me the money. Like in the Rudy Farias case, there was a lot of money there. I'm still expecting the mom to get charged with fraud charges.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's coming for sure.
That's coming. But in this case, those are the two statutes that just jump off the page at me. And certainly if it was something that was a mental health crisis, there's going to be nothing other than hopefully getting help for her. Did you catch, Pascal, that just prior to this abduction, she had an interface with police? I don't know if you caught that, but the police department had actually posted and recounted what a wonderful woman she was, that she was going into, not going into, was in nursing school, giving back to the community, just kind of, it didn't sound like in fact, they said she didn't come into the office. They talked about this. They said, in fact, that often officers interface with members of the community. And they talked about that, and all of that went out in a couple of, the police sent out notice about this. And for me, I thought that was very interesting, because it seemed like they have a lot of concern for her. And I do feel like if this was just a grandiose hoax, it wouldn't take on that sort of flavor of how much they really admired this young woman.
Yeah, that's news to me. I didn't know that there was already interaction with police prior to her disappearance. So that's really interesting news. And the fact that they said, hey, she was a stand-up woman and kind and all that is pretty big. It's still odd how this all I don't know. It's just still so odd that all this transpired. One thing I do want to say though, you mentioned about money, right? Maybe this was motivated by money. The thing is that a lot of the money that was raised, the over $63,000 that was raised, a good portion of it already has been returned back to those donors. So there's about 13,000 some odd dollars that are still in the funds right now. From my understanding, Crime Stoppers is actually reaching out to every single person that donated, $5,000 all the way down to $5. They're all supposed to be getting emails basically saying, hey, if you want your money returned right now, we can return it to you full 100%, no charge, no fees or anything like that. Because at the end of the day, she came back after, she was found 48 hours later on her own. There was nobody, from what we understand, no one out here who helped her. But they apparently have had that $13,000 being held. And police are still holding on to that because they're still investigating into this stuff. And maybe there was somebody that helped her and maybe there wasn't. But right now, that $45,000, if I'm correct, something along that line, $45,000 or something that was first initially donated, that money already went back to those original donors. So just so you guys know, because I know that there's been tweets being shared out like crazy saying, oh, they're holding on to the money. Nah. The big monies already went back to the donors, and they're still waiting to hear. They're still apparently sending out emails to more people to do that as well, to return their money as well. But that's some really interesting information. I got a super chat here. Let me grab this super chat here right quick. Say hey to Alicia. Thank you so much for the 5. When she called 911 about the toddler, why did they disconnect? That's a really good question too. Usually 911 stays online when a child is involved until police arrive. That's actually a good point. I heard somebody else say that yesterday as well. Why would 911 hang up with her? Wouldn't they ask her to stay online with her until police arrives so that they can render aid or help her with this toddler?
100%. But we have to keep in mind a lot of disconnections happen for various reasons. Everything from cell tower, you saw there's a highway there, you saw there's a forest there. We don't know how the signal is, but I can tell you when I'm driving down the highway, especially when there's a forest and if it's a busy highway, my signal goes in and out. So we don't know if that was the reason. Another thing is, if people are in the throes of an emergency, whether this was contrived or she was faking it, it's still adrenaline. She could have accidentally touched the button. She could have been leaning down, grabbing this and just accidentally disconnected the phone. I personally have done that more times than I can tell you, when I've just accidentally hit the, button. So that's a possibility. So I don't think we can necessarily say or jump to the conclusion that 911 disconnected. We just don't know.
Right. Yeah, that is a good point, though, or that's a good question to pose, right? To put up, because it doesn't make sense that, anytime I've ever been in a situation and I've called 911, they would sit there and go, stay on the line with us just to make sure that the ambulance or the first responders show up to the right place, so on and so forth. Or are they here? Yeah, I see them. They're here. They're pulling up. Thank you so much. And then they hang up. In this situation, that didn't happen. Allegedly, she calls her relative or, the friend on the phone, and then all hell breaks loose. And then we have her disappearing, which is very, very strange. Somebody else did post a question here too. I lost it. It disappeared on me, but here it is. OG Patrice just said there was no Amber Alert out on the toddler either. That's also a good point. But since I like to, think on both sides of the spectrum here, what if that kid is actually the monster's kid that they're using as bait? That could be it too. Or it could be a kid that's already been taken, that's been missing for a while, that they used as bait too. We have to play those options out as well, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we know there wasn't an Amber Alert, and it's so impossible to get Amber Alerts, seemingly. You have to, we've seen it over and over again. Michael Vaughn, I could go through the list that should have Amber Alerts that never got them. So an Amber Alert isn't an easy thing that even would have happened. But yeah, I think the premise is, right, that it was used as a ruse to get somebody to pull over and then to grab them. I mean, that's kind of how my mind worked. And of course, we see now at 9:04 somebody turning on their turn signal in the far right lane as if signaling to get off on that shoulder, and then we have lost footage. It's just, I don't like gaps like that. I think that there's some splaining to do on that. It might not even be relevant, but as an investigator, I want to see the whole picture. I don't like gaps.
Right. So the other thing is too, she showed up at the front door on foot. Okay. Now, when it comes to the evaluation part, I just want to ask this question really quick before we go up on to the part that she just shows up on foot, which is miraculous, by the way. Okay. But miracles do happen, right? Okay. In the interview here, okay, in this particular interview, the mother did say, we wanted to hug her. We wanted to give her love when we first saw her at the door, but we couldn't. The ambulance was there. They rendered aid to her, all that stuff, because she was basically in a frozen shock phase, if for lack of a better term. Okay. She was unresponsive, but she was still breathing, according to a dispatch audio. And you can see that on Iked Mel's channel as well. He did a great thing, put up the dispatch. Check it out. They say in the dispatch that she's unresponsive, but she is still breathing. The parents did not get to, family, etc., didn't get to hug her. Did they not hug her? And this was my theory, that the reason why they didn't hug her is because she may have evidence on her body and they didn't want to tamper with possible evidence before she was actually evaluated in the hospital. And if they got to take things from her that could be DNA to get us closer to this monster. I mean, am I anywhere near close, or am I totally off?
Well, so just based on experience, I've found that people don't even really think about that. They're so overcome with emotion and joy that they immediately go to their loved one without thoughts of that, unless there's a law enforcement officer right there saying, whoa, wait, or something like that. But in any event, I believe that it was as she said. And again, this is either, and remember, I do draw you to Sherry Papini, who was, completely harmed, actually, even though it was self-harm and inflicted by the boyfriend. So was this just another amazing acting job and collapse and feigning being able to breathe and unresponsive? But let me tell you, and I don't know if you know this, but I'm a tactical EMT. I maintain my certifications and everything.
Oh, wow.
And so I've responded to a lot of these instances on the SWAT team as well as in life. And when somebody is unresponsive, I mean, you do the normal initial evaluation, but often you will take a smelling salt and put it under their nose.
Oh,
now,
right.
I would, for anybody who has had a smelling salt under their nose, in other words, somebody unresponsive, they're still breathing. They still have respirations. And so they breathe in that smelling salt. And typically, if it's on the fake, they they can't help it. It burns the inside of your nostrils out.
Right.
So it's very easy to see when somebody is on the fake. We do this a lot. Say if somebody has had a lot of alcohol and they're kind of feigning, or we need to get them awake to, get their, make sure they're not going to become in a worse state. We want them mentally awake. So I believe that would have been done. I don't think they just walked up and said, okay, she's laying there, she's breathing, but she's on the fake. I think that would have been done at the beginning. So I just want to put that out there. I don't know if it was done. I don't know if that's their protocols. I'm just saying it's a normal protocol.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting because I feel like that would be very telling as well. But really quick, guys, do me a favor, everybody. If you're watching this and you're enjoying the conversation, you appreciate the conversation, please, by all means, hit that like button down below. Let's get it past 1K. Okay. I see 2,300 souls watching the show right now. Hit that like button. It doesn't cost a thing. Helps the story get out there, helps the conversation. Please do that. Let's get it to 1K really quick. And of course, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button as well. It'd be great to have you part of the Pascal Show family. As far as the evaluation goes, okay, she got to the house. She was unresponsive, but still breathing. They take her to the hospital. And then this evaluation happened, but she was pretty much let go within hours. As far as them running a, sexual assault kit or anything of that sort, does that take does it take that short amount of time, or would they have let her there? Would they have let her stay overnight or something like that? Because it seems like she was there and then she was released within hours. Is that normal? Or
sexual assault kit doesn't take much time at all. It takes virtually no time. I mean, when I say no time, in and out in 15 minutes. This is not a huge situation. Now, I'm not talking about the interview that is involved. I'm just talking about the actual sampling and evaluation. It's a short amount of time, certainly within a half an hour. So that time frame doesn't bother me at all. Remember, hospitals do not want to keep you in unless you are truly in need of very important medical aid, right? Because you're taking a bed from somebody else. It costs tens of thousands of dollars to stay the night in the hospital. It's absolutely outrageous. And so they wanted to release her if indeed she didn't have any life-threatening injuries. So we know her injuries weren't life-threatening. I have seen it posted by many people that she did not have a rape kit. I'm just wondering, how can people even say this? First of all, it would be under HIPAA, but in some way, have they talked to somebody? It's just, I think there's a lot of supposition and, quite frankly, just guesswork that's saying this. I mean, I think it's really important in a case like this to stick with the facts. Do the facts point to hoax? Yes. Do the facts point to a mental situation? Yes. Do they point to an abduction? We don't have enough. We've lost time in film. We see a car pull over. We just have pointed out, Pascal, you said it perfectly. It was dark. Like, it was super dark. Did she see somebody nobody else saw? I think there's a lot of holes, but I just think it's too early to slam the cell door on her and charge her right now with what we have.
Right. You know what? The other question I have here too is, I mean, when it comes to this, when the police find out, when the police get everything, lined up, they put all the pieces together, are they really going to put all this stuff out here, or are they going to leave everyone out here in just deep speculation, right?
Well, certainly if they put all the clues together and they think that she was truly abducted, we're going to see some sort of announcement of that, because they need to put a safety alert and notification out and ask for help. That's what I would be expecting. By not seeing this, to me, it means that A, there isn't anything to report because there was no abduction, or B, they still don't know. They're still evaluating the evidence. So we've got that. And then if it ends up that it's a mental health issue, they may or may not say anything, but it would be, I think, the proper thing to do, because this case is so out there, to just come out and say, listen, there is no abductor, there was no child, and this is a family matter, and it will be handled by the family, right? That would be what I would do if I were the chief of police. That's what I would say.
Sure, unless there was crimes that were broken, right? Unless crimes were broken, then of course maybe.
That was just B. Sorry, that was just B. So, right, A is there's an abductor. What would they do? B is it's a mental health crisis. What would they do? Now, C is what you're talking about.
Oh, sorry. So
Yeah,
if it was,
you're good.
if it's C is the hoax, and they say
Mhm.
this is what we uncovered, police would be fairly transparent about that. Clearly, they would, or I hope that they would. Shoot, and they would say, "Hey, this is what's going down. She lied through her teeth. This is another Jussie Smollett situation, and
Mhm.
we, she's going to be charged within the fullest extent of the law for whatever it is that she is, whatever laws that she broke. So yeah, that definitely is interesting. And I know I can't keep you for very, very long, but I got a couple questions here that I wanted to pull up here. First,
Mhm.
really quick, some super chats in the members chat. So Laura Strada, thank you so much for the member chat. Thank you so much for your support for the past 23 months, almost 2 years. That's amazing. Thank you so much for your support. Pascal sending snugs, hugs to you and the family. Hit that like, everyone. Yeah, be sure to hit that like if you appreciate the conversation. We're trying to keep it open, guys, right? We're not trying to stay on one side or the other. We're just kind of riding the fence right now, and it's uncomfortable as hell, okay? But we're trying to do our best here, just to have the conversation, because I know we all have our thoughts, we all have our opinions, and all that, okay? So really quick, Jennifer H, thank you so much to two. Is this why we haven't heard the 911 call? And I think she's pertaining to the maybe because of the identity or something like that of the descriptions of the boy, maybe the description of the person that allegedly took her, all that stuff. I mean, you'd think that they would put out the 911 call pretty darn quick, right? Just to clear some of the air. What are your thoughts?
I don't think so. I think 911 calls are typically very strong evidence that they use one way or the other, depending whether this could be one of the three, right? A, B, or C. And
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to keep that close to the vest. I think it'll be a long time before we ever see that or hear that, I should say, hear that call. It's just, I mean, take Idaho, and I know this isn't an Idaho discussion. I don't want to digress, but nobody has ever heard that Idaho 911 call. I know that was quadruple murder, a little bit different deal, but you'll find that oftentimes the 911 calls are suppressed until law enforcement comes out with some sort of determination.
Yeah, actually, you do have a good point there. They would be holding a lot of this close to the chest or close to the vest, however they say it, for a while until they have all the ducks in a row. They all the pieces of this puzzle clipped together. And I'm sure if she lived in a fairly decent neighborhood, okay, or if she was walking through other neighborhoods as well, I guarantee you they're probably retracing her tracks. They're probably getting as many ring cameras, security cameras, and whatnot, trying to see if they see her just walking home, or if a car dropped her off at the front of her neighborhood, and then she walked, ran back to her own home. I feel like they're still doing all of that, and I think we're going to get something soon for sure.
And
Go ahead,
remember,
Jennifer.
Pascal, just one more thing on that
Sure.
point, play devil's advocate, because I know so many people believe this is a hoax.
Yeah,
but on
please.
the devil advocate side, that say it was truly an abduction, they're not going to release that. What if she said the kind of car? What if she said how he looked? What if she said, more details? What if, we don't know. They would want to keep that close to the vest because they wouldn't want to alert that they know all of that they received via the 911 call. Just play along with me. I understand we don't have a toddler that we could see, but
Right.
that's what, as an investigator, you have to be open-minded. If you get too stuck on this has to be the case of this, you're never going to find the truth. So I appreciate that they are taking their time and that they're going to reach the conclusion that the evidence leads them to.
Yeah. That's very, very true. Somebody just said this too. Hold on, where the heck did it go? Because I got another super chat that I would love to have you answer here too. Where did it go? Who's that? Well, where the heck did it go? You guys are coming in with hot with all these comments, and I appreciate the support and I appreciate the conversation in the chat for real. She says, just like the Summer Moon Utah Wells case, the Summer Wells case, law enforcement hasn't released that 911 call either. That is very, very true. But we also do see a lot of other cases where the 911 call comes out like that. They have it out, everybody sees it. So I'm wondering why some cases do and some cases don't. Can you maybe, I don't know, give us your opinion on that? Why some are out and why some are not so quickly?
Usually the release of that kind of information is at least in the same time frame, generally with charges, with a determination. No charges, but a determination. So as you could see, good example with Summer, there's been no determination.
Yeah.
And
she's still missing too.
Oh gosh, don't even get me started on that's a whole nother segment.
Yeah. We'll go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's just one of those cases that sticks with me, probably because that case happened right after Gabby Petito. And when I first got involved in advocacy, and that was sort of my second case, that and Lena from San Antonio. Those two cases, it's still just as terrible that nothing has been solved on either of those.
Yeah. There's a lot of those cases that we, and of course, a lot of other true crime podcasters and content creators as well have been covering a multitude. And yeah, there's some that still have no transparency whatsoever, no clarity at all. And man, I really hope that we have clarity and transparency with this one, because I would hate for this one to be, we're having a conversation about this 10 years later. We're going, what happened to her, and who the baby, who the baby, whose child is this? You know what I mean? So that would be frustrating, and I hope that doesn't happen. We got another super chat really quick. Say hey to Alicia. Thank you so much for the 10. Cell phone has emergency mode after 911 typically, in case if disconnect. Love your show, Pascal. You're my favorite part of my morning routine. Thank you so much. Hit that like button for Pascal. Yeah, hit that like button, y'all, if you appreciate the conversation. Dag nabbit. All right. And yes, so the question here, and this is something we can expand on for sure as well, because the emergency mode, yes, on the 911 call, yeah, it would stay, right? Wouldn't it stay on?
No. And I know this from actual experience calling 911, being on the other end of it, right? We had, there's a hotel near where we live, and there was a murder that took place in that hotel. I should say a homicide. It ended up being accidental, but there were 3 individuals that killed another. And my husband and I were out to eat, and a neighbor actually said, "Oh my gosh, there are murderers that are in our neighborhood. The police have cordoned off the streets," and I couldn't get in for 2.5 hours. There were parents like doing the Mission Impossible and everything getting in. I knew my son was actually at a neighbor's house. But I can tell you, when you call in, at least for me on my Android with T-Mobile, I don't know. I've called in before, and no, it doesn't do that.
Interesting. It may be the Android, though. I'm just saying that out loud. It may be the Android. Okay.
Could be.
I'm just playing.
No one likes the Android. I tell you, if you go Android, you will never go back. These phones can do so much more than an iPhone, but you know what they can't do is communicate with each other. Like the iPhone has you can AirDrop, you can do that text messaging thing with everybody on. It's amazing.
It can do everything. Okay. Yeah. iPhones can do the same. But moving on. I got another one. I got another super chat here really quick. So Mad Chatter 102, thank you so much for the 5. What does Jennifer think about the husband's social media message? I don't know about this husband. I think you're thinking boyfriend's social media message. But if there is, I know what you're talking about. The statement that he made, I still have that too. Let me grab that really quick so we have it too.
Oh, good.
Because I have it really, really cool. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I mean, he definitely puts it out there first thing, right?
Yes.
That there's an abductor, that she escaped with her life.
Yes.
Good, you have it up.
Yes, it's right here. And it says here, I mean, there's a lot where he's just like thanking God, all that stuff, just saying a bunch of different things. But one of the pieces, the more important piece, is near the bottom. So he says, all I ask for everyone right now is to be respectful of Carlee's situation. And this is the part. She was literally fighting for her life for 48 hours. So until she's physically and mentally stable again, she is not able to give any updates or whereabouts on her kidnapper at this very moment. I also want to thank, and he just goes on to saying, thank you to everybody who's been praying with him, people holding it down with him, his friends, his families, his teammates, all that stuff, the church, all these other things. But he does go on to say, holding down, doubling down on the claims that she was taken. And he says that she was literally fighting for her life for 48 hours. What are your thoughts on, yes, so Mad Chatter, very good question. What are your thoughts on the boyfriend's statement here?
Well, he's Lima Charlie, as we say, loud and clear as to what he's professing there. And it certainly is in step with what the parents have said, that this was an abduction and that she wasn't even in a state where she could speak to police is what I'm pulling out of that. But we know, at least if the parents are being honest, and I don't believe they're not, that now she has given a statement. So again, this is either one of these Cecil B. DeMille, Sherry Papini acting jobs. This is truly a mental break where her reality is everything we're hearing about, or she was kidnapped. I know that's kind of where we started, and here it is, where we're ending. But this is one of these cases that, for me, I just think that we need to know more. And I don't often say that. I'm usually, oh, this is really leading me down this road. There's more. What I try to do is I look at each one of those A, B, and C, put the evidence in the buckets, right?
Right.
And right now it's kind of looking like B, but that doesn't mean there's not evidence in A and C right now. So I just am not overwhelmingly convinced either way. But I don't know about that baby on the side of the road.
Yeah, again, there's something weird. There's some odd. It's something odd for sure. With the baby and all that, and I'm wondering where is this baby? Where is the person that took her? Some other people were saying in the comments that there was no bolo out
right
at all.
Absolutely. Which is kind of what we started with that, right? We started with the fact where it, and for me as an officer, that's to me the screaming red flag that I talked about earlier in our session is where is that? Where is police warning the community? Where's police asking for help to find this perpetrator? Because that is missing, Pascal, that is my big problem with leaning toward, as I said, the other two possibilities.
Yeah, it's so odd. I got another super chat here. Say hey to Alicia again. Thank you so much for the 5. Do we know if she called 911 for sure or local PD to report toddler? In my area, it's not unusual to call local PD or 911 for emergencies. From my understanding, from dispatch, because we played some audio from dispatch in other previous shows, they said, if I'm correct, they said there was a 911 call. It was a 911 dispatching to the officers, to the police, to go to that particular area because there was a report of a woman finding a toddler on the side of the interstate. But that is a lot. That is a very fair question.
No, you're 100% right. We know there was a 911 call. They discussed the dispatch time. I've heard everything from 1.5 minutes to 2.5, but certainly under 5 minutes. And we see them on the film. If you watch the film, you can see, police screaming up there. So we know that 911 was called. I did find it odd. And again, maybe she purposefully shut off the phone. Some people, when they call 911, the next thing they want to do is call family.
True.
And say, oh my gosh.
You won't believe what I saw, right?
Yeah, you're not going to believe what's going down out here. And they just hang up and they don't listen to 911 telling them don't hang up. They just hang up. So, but there's a 911 call, I believe, that was made.
And I'm also wondering if they have her phone. Because I've talked about so they do have her phone. So I feel that when they go in and do their due diligence and dive into her phone, I think a lot is going to be explained at that point too, because what if there is dialogue that she had? Like, what is the dialogue that she had? Somebody said on the show a couple days ago or yesterday, they called in and they said, hey, what was her demeanor before she even left her work? Because she left work, picked up food, and then on her way home, she saw the kid. So there's a lot of questions that I feel like a lot of the story, I feel like there's going to be a lot more transparency when they start looking through her phone, because the phone says everything. Please.
Oh, I believe so too. The problem is, of course, that the phone was left on scene. It reportedly on the side of the road. And remember, the Apple Watch was put in her handbag. And that's why many people say, see how staged this was? That's what I said. When you have 3 buckets sitting there, you have to put the facts in each of the buckets. And some of those facts fit more than one bucket. As an example, the Apple Watch. If she really feels like this happened, if this is her reality, heaven knows what all she might have done. She might have, in her mind, the perpetrator might have told her, take off your Apple Watch. I don't want to be followed. Throw down that phone. Take off your wig so you're not recognized. In her mind, I'm just saying, having dealt with people with this issue, we don't know. But it also lends itself to, this is a big hoax. She didn't want to be found. She didn't want to be tracked. Remember, too, I thought this was interesting. This just struck me. She left the door open. She left the car on. I mean, it's just so emergent. But maybe she wanted it to look that way, all planned out, like, oh, she was dragged or,
Yeah, it seems
she took
dramatic.
her food, I heard. Did you hear that?
She took her food? That's the other piece. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jennifer, but that's a really good point there. What happened to the food, right? Was the food in the ride? Or did she took the food?
Well, I'm going to say this. According to a report I personally saw, according to that expert that I saw interviewed, that expert said she took the food. Now, I haven't heard that from law enforcement. I have no reason to believe this expert would just make that up. So I believe he found a nugget somewhere that I haven't read. But so I'm taking him at his face value. Now, if she took that food, again, that leads toward hoax or
mental health,
right? It doesn't lead toward an abduction.
It just seems odd that she would freak out, right? If it's a mental health issue, or a hoax, that she would freak out, stage this, and go, "Oh wait, the food. Let me go get it," and then and then just disappear in the woods. Just seems a bit odd. I mean, don't get me wrong. I bet Hoover food is fire, but still seems a bit strange, for sure. I had another question for you, but the food threw me off. The food threw me off, y'all. Oh man, that drives me. I hate when that. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say. She was very, very trusting as well over her car not being stolen. I mean, if it was a hoax, she left the car running. Okay, if it was a mental health thing, but let's just lean on the side of, for a second, let's just entertain hoax idea. Okay, just the hoax. Like I said, we're just sitting on the fence, guys. All right, it's either A, B, or C. So let's talk about C. Right, it's a full blown lie. That was very trusting of her to leave the car, the door open, the car running, and it's a red Mercedes, y'all. Okay, that is pretty trusting, right? For someone to just drop off their car, a nice car, this ain't some Corolla. This ain't a Toyota Corolla from 89. Okay. This is a nice red Mercedes. Okay. Off to the side of the road, door open, car running. I mean, that's just asking for someone to just jump out and hop in it and just skirt off into the night. So she was, if it was a lie, she was very trusting of staging this to look like this was, that this was to make the drama, the dramatics of it very, very high,
Right.
If it's fake.
Is like one step below what Sherry Papini did, right? I mean,
Yes.
this woman, as far as we know, didn't harm herself. Now, we don't really know that. Yeah. Did she harm herself? Was she harmed? I understand it wasn't to the point of life threatening, but we don't know if there were superficial scratches. We don't know what condition. I mean, we know she was in the condition of being unconscious, right? Unresponsive. Right. That means unconscious. That to me is significant. Like I said, I think if they thought she was faking it, we would have, they would have done the smelling salts and she would have woken right up. We don't know. Yeah. We don't have that report, but.
Yeah. I mean, well, but then again, if you're in shock and you're being unresponsive, I mean, now, of course, I'm not a medical expert. You are, you know a lot more than me as far as this goes. But when you are in a frozen shock phase and they're saying that you are unresponsive, but you're breathing, to me, it sounds like it's not her knocking on the door and then they open up the door and she's like, I'm here, like that, it seems almost like she just went in eyes wide open, but just not responding, like just full on, just having a kind of freaking out, having an anxiety attack, like a very intense anxiety attack. That's how I see it, or that's how I've been mapping it out in my head. But I could be wrong. What are your thoughts on that? Could that be possible?
Just in hearing how the mom described it, and then also hearing the tape of the interaction on the radio traffic regarding unresponsive, I did kind of take it as that. In other words, just say that this was a true abduction, and that person has either A, escaped, or B, their captor let them go. Just say. Right. For the sense of discussion. And now you make it somehow. We don't even know how she made it there.
Right.
But you make it to your parents' home. And the overwhelming, I think, sense of, oh my God, I'm safe, could have been enough to put her into shock. Shock is just lack of perfusion, right? Blood perfusion, getting to all the places it needs to be for you to be able to think and breathe and your heart work and walk. That is all. That's what shock means. Literally, your system, through lack of perfusing oxygen, just kind of shuts down, and you're just not able to think or do anything correctly. So we don't know. It's kind of up in the air, isn't it?
Everything is very, very much up in the air. Let me just pull up this one other comment here really quick. Delana, I know you've been a lot longer than thank you. I do appreciate this. And I know everybody in the conversation really does appreciate this. So thank you so very, very much. One last question for you. Okay.
Sounds good.
What about the fact that the Ashanti alert was never put on? That's a good point too. Delana. Very good point. Your thoughts? Do you think law enforcement saw some red flags earlier? What are your thoughts on that? Very good question.
Well, I do. But again, these alerts require going back to the office. You have to write it all up. Then you have approvals. You would think it would be fast. These are emergent situations. It's like, come on, let's get let's get it. And some, jurisdictions are super quick, and others, it requires more of a red tape process, sometimes clear up to other state agencies making the final call. So it's not always as easy as it seems on television. Like, oh, Ashanti alert. Let's let's get it going. It does take some time. And as I said, each jurisdiction is different.
Mhm.
But I think probably law enforcement was trying to figure out what elephant they had by the toe. Was this really an abduction? They didn't want to put it in and then have it not be real. So their number one thing they would have been doing is dissecting the tapes before, right? Because what if this was planned? Was somebody already pulled over and waiting,
Right.
to do and then way after, did somebody come back and pick up what happened during the time frame? What the heck happened to those minutes or minute? I think it's like a minute 40. I've heard. I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but I did see at 9:04 that car blinking to pull over. What's that
Right.
all about?
That is very interesting. And burning questions, a lot of burning questions. And there's a lot of gaps in this story that I feel like hopefully law enforcement is going to come up with it very, very soon, and we can get.
Mhm.
Man, I just hope they come. They said in the next few days, so hopefully, hopefully the next few days isn't a month from now. You know what I mean? Hopefully, it's later this week. We find out some more stuff so we can kind of. She's home, she's safe, and that's good. So hopefully, we're gonna nip this in the bud, whether it is the truth, the mental health crisis, or a hoax. But Jennifer Coffindaffer, again, I really do appreciate you coming onto the show, as always, bringing in your expertise, your experience, all that stuff, and just shedding light on these cases, especially on this one too, because it gives us some more clarity on, for a lot of people, on whatever side of the spectrum they are on as far as this story. So I really do appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pascal. I was going to mention to your viewers, which, by the
Please.
way, I love your viewers. They always have great questions. They're always so engaged. I can see Pascal, I guess you guys can too. He's always like, I see him reading, like he's trying to still keep up with what I'm saying, what he wants to say, and what you all are saying. I watch you and it's interesting. But I just wanted to say, I did, and I'm a big Twitter poll person. I love to hear what people who are in the true crime community, what they think. I've found so many great nuggets, right? So anyway, I have a poll right now as to whether this is a hoax, whether this is a mental crisis moment, or whether she was abducted. Please feel free to go on my Twitter and give a vote. You don't have to follow me or like me, but man, place a vote. I am curious because I think these votes capture, they're a microcosm of really what most people are thinking in the United States on this. So
yeah,
love to get your vote.
Yes, please, everybody, go over to Twitter. If you're on the twits, please go over to at Coffindaffer FBI. All right. Hey, go follow her too. All right. Go to her recent post. She just put in that poll. You can see right there. Okay. What do you think? This is a hoax. There was an abductor. There was a mental break. You can go over there, put in your vote. I'm sure she'd really appreciate that. But I'm going to push it again. Go over to her Twitter, follow her. All right. Because she comes up. She has a lot of news over the true crime community and other things as well. She puts in her expertise on a lot of this. Okay. So,
Pascal,
Jennifer, yes,
where are we at on the poll? I'm just curious. What does the poll
Ooh.
say? I haven't been looking at it for the past hour.
Ooh, where we at? Well, you're at.
No, I mean,
wow, you're over 90.
Is it for what percentage do people think right now?
Oh, I haven't put in my vote. I don't know if I can. Do I put in my vote and then? Oh, okay.
Oh, it's not showing you?
No, it doesn't show. So I put in my vote already. So I'll show it right quick. The results, what the results are so far. So the results are right now. It says this was a hoax at 35%. Okay, rounding around 35%. There was an abductor that is at 18%, close to 19%. And then there was a mental break at 45%, close to 46%. So a lot of people are thinking that this could very well have been a mental break, but a lot of other people feel like this is a hoax. So go over to her Twitter, follow her. Okay. And that's out of over 19,000 votes so far. Oh, sorry, 1,900 votes. I'm sorry. Over 1,900 votes so far. Close to 2,000 votes on that poll. So go over there, put in your 2 cents. I'm sure she'll really appreciate it. Jennifer, thank you so much for being on. I really do appreciate it. And we'll be talking to you soon, okay?
Thank you. You have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Bye. So guys, please go over and follow her on her Twitter, okay? Fantastic individual, really good at what she does, okay? And she brings up a lot of really great questions on her Twitter. And then of course she's a correspondent on News Nation and a bunch of other news outlets as well. So she knows her thing, okay? So please go and check her out. She's fantastic, okay? But I appreciate all y'all for being here. It really does mean a lot. Real talk, it does really, really mean a lot, all right? This is still an ongoing burning question or an ongoing burning discussion. There have been so many people on so many different sides of the fence. Some people think it's one thing. Some people think it's another. Some people think it's another. There are 3 choices out here. Either it's a hoax or she was taken or there was a mental health crisis. Where do you stand? Where do you stand in this situation? For me, I'm still leaning on the side of this might have been a mental health break because of all the things that are being presented in front of us. But then again, I could be totally wrong. We don't know what's going on here, y'all. I don't know what's going on. All I know is the information that's been presented in front of us, and we're going to do our best, of course, to stay on the story, stay on the case, and hear more. As you already know, the parents did speak out. That interview from today, from the Today Show, okay, to the Today Morning Show, was put out early this morning. So I did a reaction video to that, or I actually just gave you kind of bullets of things that really stuck out to me in a video. So please go and check that video out because I think it's very important. You hear the parents say that thing, all right? So please be sure to go over there and do that, okay? But anyway, guys, that is the show. I appreciate all y'all for being here. It really does mean a lot. Yes, Lisa Chambers, some people think that they're trying to cover for that the parents are trying to cover for her. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't see why the parents would sit down and lie on her behalf. Because it's only, if she is lying, it's only going to come back and bite them in the butt. Real talk. Only puts them in more trouble. So that's not good. That's no bueno at all. All right. So anyway, guys, please do me a favor. All right. Before you head out, hit that like button down below. Love to see it go past 1K. All right. A like don't cost a thing. If you appreciated the conversation, expert opinions on this particular case, please hit that like button. And of course, if you haven't done it yet and you've been watching the show and you enjoyed the conversation as well, hit that subscribe button, baby. Okay? Plain and simple. Hit that subscribe button. If there's any more developing information, you know for a fact you're going to get it right here on the Pascal Show. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell, set it to all so that you know whenever I go live or whenever I upload, because it be random, okay? It be random. So be sure to hit that notification bell. And if you want to support the channel, become a member, hit that join button down below, become a member, or you can follow my Patreon, patreon.com/The Pascal Show. Anyway, I loved the conversation, loved hearing all y'all's opinions and positions on this whole situation. The story is still moving forward. So as soon as we get more stuff, I'll be here to break it for you guys, break it down for you. Hopefully live or in a pop-up video. So stay tuned. There's more coming. Trust me. May not be later on today. It may be later this week, but it's coming. Oh, the truth is coming. All right. And I'm here for it. Anyway, guys, it is time to get going. I appreciate all y'all. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. And I'll see you guys very soon. Oh, Mercedes, thank you so much for the 300 for the $3 super sticker. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. One more time. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. This is the Pascal Show. Bye.